I arrive just before the sun disappears behind the hills. The light is thin and silver, sliding across the grass like water. My boots sink slightly into the wet soil with every step, the ground soft from days of rain. The air tastes metallic and cold when I breathe in, sharp enough to wake me completely. I adjust the straps of my pack and keep walking, listening only to the slow rhythm of my footsteps and the faint whisper of wind moving through the heather. The path ended a long time ago. Now it's just open land and instinct. I follow the darker line where others must have walked decades ago, barely visible between stones and weeds. My gloves brush against tall grass, leaving trails of droplets on the fabric. Everything smells green and damp, like crushed leaves and old bark. It's quiet in a way cities never are. No engines, no voices, just space. From the top of a small rise, I finally see it. The mansion. Dark stone against a darker sky. Wide and heavy, like it grew out of the earth instead of being built. The windows look empty, black and reflective, catching the last light like blind eyes. I stop for a moment, hands on my hips, studying the shape of it the way I always study a new structure. Angles, weight, weak points. I treat it like any other job, even if my chest feels tight. The wind pushes harder up here, slipping under my jacket and cooling the sweat on my back. I zip it higher and start down the slope. Small rocks roll under my boots with soft clicks. Each sound feels louder than it should. The hills around me are too open, too still, as if the whole place is holding its breath. Even the birds are gone. No wings, no calls, just that steady wind. As I get closer, details begin to show themselves. Broken gutters hanging loose, ivy crawling up the walls like veins, parts of the roof sagging inward. I automatically start planning repairs in my head. Replace the beams, clear drainage, reinforce the corners. Thinking like this keeps me calm. Wood, stone, tools, problems with solutions. It's easier to believe everything can be fixed if you look at it long enough. My pack creaks as I shift it off one shoulder for a moment. The straps rub against the fabric with a soft scratchy sound. I roll my neck and breathe slowly. The air smells older here, like wet stone and something stale trapped inside the walls. It reminds me of basements I worked in as a kid. Forgotten places, places people stopped caring about. That smell always lingers. The front gate appears through the fog. Iron bars twisted with rust, half swallowed by vines. I push it gently with my palm. It doesn't move at first, then suddenly gives way with a long, aching squeal. The sound stretches across the field like a warning. I freeze, listening. My heart beats louder than the metal. Nothing answers back. Still, the echo feels wrong, like I knocked on a door I shouldn't have touched. Inside the fence, the grass grows taller. Untouched. My pants brush against it with a dry shh sound. I notice old footprints hardened in the mud near the entrance, but they're not recent. Edges softened by time and rain. Whoever made them came here long ago. I crouch for a second, tracing one with my finger. The soil crumbles easily. Years old, maybe more. I look up at the house again, closer now. The windows reflect my own silhouette back at me. For a strange second, it feels like someone else is standing there instead, watching. Same height, same shape. I blink and it's gone. Just my tired eyes and the fading light. I exhale slowly through my nose and shake my head. Long walks always play tricks on the mind, that's all. I tighten my gloves and step toward the front door. The wood is swollen and dark, scratched by weather and time. I place my hand on it and feel the cold seep through the leather, straight into my bones. All right, I whisper to myself, voice low and steady. Let's see what you're hiding. Then I push gently, listening to the first deep creak of the mansion waking up as night settles over everything. I don't go inside right away. I've learned not to rush a structure I don't understand. Instead, I walk slowly along the outer wall, keeping one hand against the stone the whole time. The surface is colder than the air, damp and slightly slimy with moss. My glove slides over it with a soft scraping sound. Grit sticks to the fabric. I like to feel the building first, like shaking hands with it before stepping into its space. The stones are uneven, stacked generations ago by someone patient and strong. I trace the mortar lines with my thumb, pressing lightly. Some parts are solid as bone. Others crumble at the slightest touch, turning into sandy powder that falls between my fingers. The tiny grains hit the ground with faint ticks. It smells earthy and old, like a cellar that's been closed too long. The scent settles deep in my nose. I move slower, studying the foundation. Small cracks snake downward like veins. Rainwater must collect here during storms. Poor drainage. I picture digging a shallow trench, laying gravel, guiding the water away. Simple fixes. Familiar work. Thinking through repairs keeps my mind steady. If something can be repaired, it isn't dangerous. That's what I tell myself. Problems with solutions don't deserve fear. The fog thickens around the corners of the house, clinging to the stone like breath against glass. My boots press into wet soil with dull, heavy thuds. Each step leaves a clear print behind me. I glance back and see my own trail curving along the wall. It looks strange. Just one set of footprints in all that empty land. Like I'm the first person to walk here in years. I stop beneath a boarded window. The wood is grey and warped, nailed tight across the frame. I tap it with my knuckles. Hollow. The sound echoes inside, deeper than expected. I listen to it fade into the house. For a moment, it almost feels like the building tapped back. Just a faint vibration through the board. Probably loose beams. Old houses always talk. Still, I wait longer than necessary before moving again. I crouch and brush aside a patch of ivy. The leaves are cold and slick, water droplets sliding onto my wrist. Beneath them, the stone is scratched, thin, straight marks too deliberate to be natural. Tool marks. Someone scraped here before. Maybe clearing the wall, maybe trying to pry something open. I run my fingers across the grooves. They're smooth with age, worn down by years of wind and rain. My breath fogs in front of me as the temperature drops with the sun. The air feels heavier now, thicker, harder to pull into my lungs. I flex my hands to warm them. Leather creaks softly. Somewhere in the distance, metal clinks. Just my carabiner tapping the buckle of my pack. The small sound startles me more than it should. Everything is too quiet. Even the smallest noise feels like it doesn't belong. As I round the back of the mansion, the ground dips slightly. Mud sucks at my boots with slow, sticky pulls. The smell changes here. Less grass, more rot. Old leaves decomposing into black soil. I can hear water dripping steadily from somewhere above. Drip, drip, drip. A patient rhythm. It reminds me of clocks. Like time itself is leaking out of the house one drop at a time. Then I notice something that makes me pause. Near the corner, there are old nail heads embedded in the stone, rusted almost flat. Not random, lined up. Someone once attached something here. Maybe a beam, maybe a support frame. Temporary reinforcement. The kind of quick fix you make when you're trying to survive the night, not restore a building. I picture another man standing where I stand, hammering fast before dark. I rest my palm flat against the wall one more time and close my eyes for a second. The cold seeps through the glove, straight into my bones. Solid, ancient, quiet. All right, I murmur under my breath, voice low and steady. I understand you a little better now. But even as I say it, the stone feels less like a wall and more like skin. As if something on the other side is aware of my touch, waiting for me to come inside. I decide not to enter the mansion yet. Night is too close. And I've learned to never sleep inside an unfamiliar structure without preparing a backup. I lower my pack slowly onto the ground, the strap sliding off my shoulders with a tired rustle. The weight leaves my spine all at once. For a second, I just stand there, breathing in the cold air, watching my breath drift away like smoke. I pick a spot a few meters from the front door, close enough to reach quickly, far enough to leave if something feels wrong. The grass here is thick and wet. When I kneel, moisture seeps through the fabric of my pants. My gloves brush the ground, pushing aside leaves and small stones. They scrape softly across the soil. A dry, steady sound. Clearing space always calms me. It's simple, controlled. I unfold the small shovel and start leveling the earth. Each scoop sinks into the dirt with a dull crunch. The smell rises immediately. Rich, dark, alive. Fresh soil has a warmth to it, even in the cold. I smooth the surface with the back of the blade, pressing it flat. Slow strokes, back and forth, like sanding wood. The rhythm settles my thoughts into something quieter. The tarp comes next. I shake it out and the fabric snaps sharply in the wind. The sound echoes more than it should, bouncing off the stone walls of the mansion behind me. I freeze for half a second listening. Nothing answers. I kneel and stretch the tarp tight across the ground, corners pulled straight. My fingers pinch the material, feeling every crease. Clean lines. Order. That's what I need right now. I push the stakes into the soil with steady pressure. The metal sinks with a soft crunch. Then the mallet. Tap, tap, tap. Each strike is deliberate, measured, the same force every time. The sound is low and satisfying. I've hammered thousands of nails in my life. The repetition is almost meditative. For a few minutes, it feels like I'm anywhere else. Just another quiet job in the wild. When the shelter is up, I step back and study it. Small, simple, reliable. The canvas moves gently in the wind, breathing in and out. I run my palm across the surface, feeling the tension in the ropes, tight enough to hold, strong enough to last the night. I always trust what I build with my own hands. It's the only thing that never surprises me. I sit on a flat stone and take off my gloves. My fingers are stiff and pale from the cold. I rub them together, listening to the faint rasp of skin against skin. Then I pull out the stove and set it on the ground. The click of the igniter sounds too sharp in the quiet. A small blue flame blooms to life, gentle, controlled. I hold my hands near it and let the warmth seep back in. Water pours into the metal cup with a hollow slosh. Soon it begins to tremble, tiny bubbles forming along the bottom. The soft hiss of heating water fills the air. Steam curls upward, white and slow, disappearing into the dark. The smell of metal and heat mixes with the damp night. I watch the steam for longer than necessary. It's comforting, something alive in all this stillness. While I eat, I keep glancing at the mansion. The windows are darker now, almost black against the sky. No reflections, no movement, just empty squares staring back at me. The wind slides through broken frames somewhere inside, producing a low, hollow whistle. It almost sounds like breathing, slow, patient, like the house is asleep, or pretending to be. I zip my jacket and stand, stretching my back until it pops softly. My small camp feels warm and human compared to the cold stone behind me. One night outside first, I mutter under my breath. Tomorrow, we start the real work. My voice sounds steady, but the words vanish too quickly into the air. And as the last light fades completely, I can't shake the feeling that something inside the mansion is listening, waiting for me to come closer. I wait until the last trace of daylight thins into gray before walking to the door. The air feels colder near the entrance, like the stone is exhaling years of trapped night. My boots crunch softly over gravel and dead leaves. Each step sounds too loud, too clear. I flex my fingers inside my gloves and rest my palm against the wood. It's damp and rough, the grain swollen from decades of rain. I push gently at first. Nothing. Then a little more pressure. The hinges answer with a long tired groan that vibrates through the door and into my arm. The sound crawls through the quiet field behind me. It feels like announcing myself, like knocking before entering someone else's house. I swallow slowly and keep pushing until a gap opens wide enough for my shoulder. The smell reaches me before the darkness does. Old fabric, rotting wood, dust thick enough to taste. It settles on the back of my tongue like chalk. I breathe through my mouth and step inside. The temperature drops immediately, colder than outside, as if the sun never touched this place. My skin tightens under my clothes. My first step lands on broken glass. A sharp crunch. The sound echoes up into the ceiling and comes back thinner, stretched out. I freeze and listen. The echo fades slowly, like the house is thinking about it. My flashlight clicks on with a dull snap. The beam cuts through the dark, catching thousands of floating dust particles. They drift lazily, like snow underwater. The entrance hall opens wide in front of me, bigger than I expected. High ceilings, tall walls, the kind of space that used to hold voices and laughter. Now it only holds air. My light glides across peeling wallpaper and cracked portraits hanging crooked. Frames warped, faces faded beyond recognition. For a second, it feels like they're watching me pass. I set my pack down slowly near the wall. The buckle taps against the stone with a small metallic click. Too sharp, too sudden. My own movements feel intrusive here. I clear my throat quietly just to hear something human. The sound seems swallowed almost immediately, like the room doesn't want to keep it. I test the floorboards with the heel of my boot before putting my full weight down. Solid, mostly. A few boards complain with low creaks, deep and slow, like old bones shifting. I take another step, then another. The wood answers each one with a different tone. High, low, hollow. The house has its own language. I just don't know what it's saying yet. My hand brushes the wall as I walk, fingers trailing along the surface. The paint flakes off easily, sticking to my glove like dry skin. Underneath, the plaster is cold and slightly wet. Condensation maybe, or trapped moisture. It leaves a faint chalky smell on my hand. Everything here feels like it's slowly dissolving. The chandelier above me swings slightly, though there's no wind inside. The chain creaks softly, back and forth, back and forth. I shine the light up at it, and the crystals catch the beam, scattering tiny reflections across the walls. For a moment, it almost looks alive. Small flashes of movement in every corner. I hold still until it settles. I take one slow breath and look deeper into the hallway ahead, where the darkness thickens like fog. All right, I whisper to myself, voice low and steady. Just another structure, nothing more. The words sound practical, logical. But as I step forward and the door behind me drifts half closed with a heavy thud, it feels less like entering a house, and more like the house closing around me. I don't like standing still inside unfamiliar buildings. Stillness lets the mind wander too far. Work keeps it anchored. So I kneel beside my pack and unzip it slowly, the fabric rasping in the silence. The sound feels strangely loud in the empty hall. My tools greet me like old friends. Hammer, nails, measuring tape, folding saw. Familiar weight, familiar purpose. I choose the nearest broken window first. Simple job. Something small to claim the space. The frame is cracked and sagging, letting cold air slip through in thin, steady drafts. The wind whistles softly across the gap. I rest my palm on the sill. The wood is damp and soft around the edges, like bread left out too long. It needs reinforcement before the night deepens. I set a plank across my knees and start cutting it to size. The saw teeth bite into the wood with a dry rhythmic shk, shk, shk. Each stroke sends tiny vibrations into my wrists. The smell of fresh pine rises immediately, warm, sweet, alive. It cuts through the stale air of the mansion. For a moment, it feels like bringing the outside world back in. Wood shavings curl onto the floor like thin ribbons. They land softly, almost soundless. I brush them aside with the back of my glove. The floor beneath is cold and gritty. Everything here feels aged and tired, but this plank is new. Straight lines, clean edges. I like that contrast. Something new against something forgotten. I press the board against the window frame and hold it steady with one hand. With the other, I place the first nail. The metal head is cold between my fingers. I tap it lightly to set it in place. Then I lift the hammer. Tap, tap, tap. Slow and measured. The strikes echo deeper into the house, but the rhythm comforts me. Each hit sends a dull vibration through the wall. Solid. Reliable. I breathe in time with the hammer. Lift. Strike. Lift. Strike. The repetition smooths out my thoughts. My shoulders relax. I've done this thousands of times in cabins, sheds, shelters. Repairing something broken feels natural. Like stitching skin. Like telling the world it still has a chance. When the board finally sits tight against the frame, the draft disappears. The whistle of wind fades to nothing. The silence that follows is heavier than before. Too complete. I tilt my head listening. Without the wind, the mansion sounds hollow, like an empty chest cavity. I didn't realize how much that small noise was masking everything else. I run my hand along the edge of the plank to check alignment. Smooth, firm, perfect fit. My glove drags across the grain with a soft scratch. I feel a small spark of pride. Nothing dramatic, just quiet satisfaction. A tiny pocket of order carved into chaos. For a second, I almost smile. It feels good to improve something, even this place. Then I notice something strange. Around my new nails, there are faint circles in the wood. Old marks, same spacing, same height. Like another board had been nailed here before, in the exact same position. I lean closer, shining the light across the surface. The outlines are unmistakable. Someone else repaired this window, long ago, and whatever they placed here is gone. I rest the hammer against my thigh and stare at the empty frame for a moment. The house is quiet again. Too quiet. Guess I'm not the first, I mutter under my breath. My voice sounds small in the room. I slide another plank into place anyway, lifting the hammer once more. Tap, tap, tap. The sound feels different now. Less like repair and more like I'm repeating work that's already been done. I gather the remaining planks and stack them under one arm. The wood rubs together with a dry, papery sound. My gloves scrape against the grain as I adjust my grip. The hallway ahead is darker now, the last natural light completely gone. Only my flashlight moves with me. A narrow cone sliding over walls and floor like slow water. Each step lands carefully. Heel first, then wait. The boards answer with low creaks that travel ahead of me. Old houses always talk back, but this one seems louder, deeper. The sound lingers longer than it should, stretching into the dark like something pulling it away. I breathe through my nose, steady and slow, listening to the rhythm of my own movement. Dust hangs thick in the beam of light. Tiny particles drift lazily, sparkling like ash. When I walk through them, they swirl around my legs. My jacket brushes the wall, producing a faint scratching noise. Everything I touch responds. Fabric, wood, stone. The house feels sensitive, like skin reacting to contact. I count my steps out of habit. 1, 2, 3, 4. It helps keep my mind focused. The boards complain under my boots in different tones, some sharp, some hollow. I map the weak spots mentally, noting which areas I'll need to reinforce tomorrow. Planning repairs keeps fear small. Measurements are safer than imagination. Halfway down the corridor, I hear it. Another step, soft, slightly delayed. I freeze mid-stride. My heartbeat jumps hard in my chest. The sound stops immediately, swallowed by the silence. I tell myself it's just the echo bouncing back from the walls. Old places do that, sound tricks, nothing else. I start walking again, slower this time. One step, then another. Behind me. A second step follows. Not quite in sync. Slightly heavier. Like someone wearing thicker boots. The wood groans with a different tone than mine. Lower. Duller. I feel the vibration through the floor before I even hear it. My hands tighten around the planks until my knuckles ache. I stop breathing and turn my head without moving my feet. The flashlight beam sweeps across the corridor behind me. Peeling wallpaper. Cracked doors. Empty air. Nothing else. No movement. No shadow shifting. Just dust drifting lazily like nothing happened. The silence presses against my ears until they ring. I swallow and try to reason through it. Two echoes overlapping. Old beams settling. Temperature changes. There's always an explanation. There has to be. Still, my skin prickles under my jacket. The back of my neck feels cold, as if someone just walked past me. I rub it with my glove, pretending it's just the draft. I keep moving, but now every step feels like a question. The hallway seems longer than before. My light doesn't reach the end anymore, as if the dark is thickening. The planks in my arms feel heavier. The air smells stale and sour, like wet cloth left too long in a closed room. My own breathing sounds too loud, too close. Then it happens one more time. Clear as day. I place my foot down, and a second foot lands behind me half a second later. Not an echo, not a creak, a step, deliberate, measured, matching my pace. I don't turn this time. I just whisper under my breath, trying to keep my voice steady. It's nothing, just the house settling. But deep down, I know one thing with uncomfortable certainty. I'm not the only one walking these halls tonight. I reach the end of the corridor and find the staircase. The steps rise into darkness, narrow and steep. I run my hand along the railing before climbing. The wood is smooth in some places, splintered in others, worn by hands that haven't touched it in decades. Each step groans under my weight, long and tired sounds that echo up the stairwell like distant sighs. Upstairs, the air feels thicker, warmer somehow but stale, like breath trapped in a sealed jar. My flashlight beam cuts across the hallway, catching old frames and doors hanging slightly open. The floorboards here are coated in fine dust. When I walk, my boots leave clear prints behind me. I glance back and see my trail stretching down the corridor. Just mine. No others. I choose the first door on the left and push it gently. The hinges whisper instead of scream, a soft wooden murmur. The room beyond is small but intact. A bed frame without a mattress. A narrow fireplace. A crooked desk near the window. It feels less destroyed than the rest of the house. Almost preserved. Like this room was left alone on purpose. I step inside slowly. The air smells different here. Less rot, more dry wood and old fabric. My boots brush against the floor with a low scratch. Something about the quiet feels heavier. Not empty. More like waiting. I exhale carefully, listening to how the sound behaves. It dies too fast, swallowed by the walls. I kneel and press my palm against the boards to test them. Solid, no sagging. Good support beams underneath. Structurally, it's the safest room I've seen so far. That's what matters. Logic first. Always logic. If I'm staying the night inside, this is the best option. Close to the stairs. One exit, easy to defend. I catalog everything automatically. 6. Then I notice the floor. Long scratches run across the wood, deep and uneven, as if heavy furniture was dragged across it in a hurry. Back and forth. Back and forth. The marks overlap like someone changed their mind several times. I trace one with my finger. The groove is rough and splintered. Not old. Not as old as the rest of the house. I set my pack down near the wall and unroll my sleeping mat. The fabric rustles softly. The small, ordinary sound feels strangely loud in this room. I smooth it flat with both hands, pressing out the air. The simple routine calms me. Lay the mat, check the door, place boots near the exit. Knife within reach. Movements I've repeated hundreds of nights before. I light a candle instead of using the flashlight. The flame catches slowly, then steadies into a small golden glow. Shadows stretch along the walls, long and thin, bending with every flicker. The room feels warmer instantly, softer. The light makes the dust drift like slow snow. For a second, it almost looks peaceful, almost livable. While organizing my tools on the desk, my fingers brush against something carved into the wood. I lean closer, bringing the candle near. Letters scratch deep into the surface. Messy, uneven, like someone used a nail or a knife in shaking hands. I wipe away the dust and read them slowly with my thumb following each groove. Don't sleep. I stare at the words for a long time. The cuts are old, edges smoothed by years of touch. Others must have traced them before me, just like I am now. I swallow and let out a quiet breath through my nose. Probably just someone trying to scare themselves, I mutter softly. My voice sounds calm, steady, practiced. But as the candle flickers and the shadows crawl across the walls, I can't shake the feeling that this room isn't empty. It feels like the only room that remembers what happened here. I lie down fully dressed, back against the thin mat, boots placed neatly beside the door. The floor beneath me is hard but steady. I prefer that. Solid surfaces mean fewer surprises. The candle burns low on the desk, its flame small and patient. The light paints the ceiling in slow-moving shadows. I fold my hands over my chest and listen to my breathing settle into a calm rhythm. The air smells like old wood and melted wax, warm and dusty. Every inhale tastes faintly sour, like fabric that hasn't seen sunlight in years. My jacket rustles softly when I shift my shoulders. Even that tiny sound feels intrusive, too alive for this place. I try to stay still, letting the house speak first. It doesn't take long. A soft tick somewhere inside the walls. Then another. Pipes, maybe. Or old nails contracting in the cold. The noises are irregular, scattered like distant rain hitting metal. I count them without meaning to. Each one separate, each one lonely. The mansion feels like a giant body cooling down for the night. The boards under me creak gently as the temperature drops. Long, slow stretches of wood adjusting to the cold. I feel the vibration through my spine. It reminds me of boats at anchor rocking against water. For a moment, it's almost soothing, familiar. Buildings always make sounds after dark. That's normal. That's predictable. Then the wind slides through the cracks in the walls. A low whistle travels across the room, thin and hollow. It circles me like breath passing through teeth. The candle flickers harder, bending sideways. Shadows stretch and twist along the ceiling beams. My eyes follow them automatically, shapes forming and dissolving in the dark. I turn onto my side and close my eyes, focusing on small things. The fabric of the mat under my fingers, the slow pulse in my wrist, the faint crackle of wax melting. ASMR habits, grounding details. If I concentrate on texture and sound, my mind doesn't wander into stupid fears. I've slept in worse places than this. Colder, louder, rougher. Just as I begin drifting, I hear it. A dragging sound. Soft at first, slow. Like something heavy sliding across wood. It comes from above me, from the ceiling. The noise moves in a straight line, steady and deliberate. Dust sifts down between the boards, landing lightly on my jacket like powder. I hold my breath and listen harder. The dragging continues. Scrape, pause, scrape. Too rhythmic to be loose debris, too controlled to be wind. My heart starts beating louder than the sound itself. I press my palm flat against the floor, feeling for vibrations. There's weight up there. Something with mass, something moving carefully. The candle flame trembles again. The shadows ripple. The sound stops directly over my head. No more scraping, no shifting. Just silence. A thick, suffocating silence. I stare at the ceiling, eyes wide, tracking every crack in the wood, waiting for something to break through. My throat feels dry. Even swallowing seems too loud. I whisper to myself, barely louder than breath. Old beams. Just old beams settling. The words sound thin, unconvincing. I keep my eyes open, staring into the dark, counting seconds. 1, 2, 3. But the house doesn't move anymore. It just waits. And lying there on that cold floor, I realize something that makes my skin crawl slowly. Whatever was above me stopped because it knows I'm awake. I don't remember falling asleep. One moment I'm staring at the ceiling, counting breaths. The next my eyes open to a dull grey darkness. The candle has burned out. The air feels colder, thicker. My joints ache like I've been lying still for hours. For a few seconds I just listen, trying to understand what woke me. There's no dragging sound anymore. No wind, no ticking pipes. The silence is complete, like snow covering everything. Even my own breathing feels muted. I sit up slowly, the mat crinkling under my weight. The small noise seems enormous in the room. I wait for something to answer it. Nothing does. My fingers fumble for the flashlight. The switch clicks on with a dry snap. The beam slices through the dark, revealing the desk, the chair, the scratched warning. Don't sleep. The letters look deeper now, darker in the pale light, like the wood itself is bruised around them. I rub my eyes and stand carefully. I step into the hallway, boots whispering against the dusty floor. The cold bites harder out here. My breath fogs in front of me. The corridor looks exactly like before. Long, empty, peeling wallpaper hanging in tired strips. For a moment, I almost convinced myself the night passed quietly, that maybe I imagined everything. Then I reached the window I repaired. I stopped walking. The plank I nailed in place is gone. Not broken, not ripped out, just removed. I kneel slowly, shining the light closer. The board is leaning neatly against the wall. The nails are stacked beside it in a straight little row, like tools laid out by a careful hand. My stomach tightens. I pick one up. It isn't bent. The head isn't damaged. It was pulled out clean. Cleaner than I usually manage myself. I run my fingers across the frame. The wood around the holes is smooth, almost polished. No splinters, no tearing. Whoever removed it knew exactly how to work the material. Patient, precise, the same way I do. My own hammer lies a few meters away, exactly where I left it, but rotated slightly, like someone picked it up and set it back down. A cold sensation crawls up my spine. Not fear exactly, recognition. The kind you feel when you see your handwriting on a note you don't remember writing. I glance down the hallway toward the stairs. Everything is still, but the air feels disturbed, like someone walked through here recently, like heat lingering after a body passes. Then I hear it, faint, below me. Tap, 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 slow, even, deliberate. Hammer strikes, measured and careful, the exact rhythm I use when setting nails. Not rushed, not panicked, professional. Each hit echoes up through the stairwell, hollow and patient, like someone calmly finishing a job in the middle of the night. 10. I stand there in the corridor, flashlight trembling slightly in my hand, listening to that familiar rhythm continue downstairs. Tap, tap, tap. It sounds so normal, so routine, like work, like me. I swallow and whisper under my breath, trying to steady myself. That's impossible. I'm the only one here. But deep down, I know something worse than impossible is happening. Something inside this house isn't breaking things. It's repairing them. The hammering continues for a long time. Slow, careful, patient. I stay at the top of the stairs, not moving, just listening to each strike travel up through the wood and into my legs. Tap, tap, tap. The rhythm is steady, almost meditative. Too familiar. It sounds like me working late into the night on some quiet build. That's what unsettles me most. It feels personal. I don't go down to look. Every instinct I trust tells me not to. Some problems you solve with tools, others you survive by leaving alone. I step backward instead, slow and quiet, keeping the flashlight low. The beam trembles slightly across the floor. My breathing sounds louder than the hammer now. Back inside the small bedroom, I kneel beside my pack and start packing without thinking. Movements automatic. Roll the mat tight, fold the tarp, stack the tools. Metal clinks softly against metal. Each sound feels exposed, like I'm making too much noise. Like something downstairs might hear me preparing to leave. My fingers move faster than usual, but still precise. I've learned that rushing causes mistakes. Mistakes get you hurt. So I keep everything deliberate. Tight knots, clean folds, no wasted motion. The routine steadies me. The familiar textures, canvas, rope, steel remind me of who I am. A builder, not prey. The hammering stops suddenly. No final strike, no fading echo. Just silence. The kind of silence that feels like someone covering your mouth mid-sentence. My hands freeze on the zipper of my bag. I wait, counting seconds in my head. 1, 2, 3. Nothing. The house feels awake now, listening. I sling the pack over my shoulders. The weight settles across my back like a decision already made. I take one last look around the room. The desk, the carved warning, the faint candle wax on the surface. Everything exactly where I left it. Except it doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels occupied, like I'm the guest. The hallway is colder than before. My breath forms thick clouds in the beam of my light. Each step toward the stairs is slow and careful. The boards creak under me, but there are no second footsteps this time. No echo following mine. That almost scares me more. The house has gone completely still. When I reach the entrance hall, I notice the front door is slightly open. I'm sure I closed it earlier. A thin line of pale grey light spills across the floor, cutting through the darkness like a blade. Dawn. The air drifting in smells fresh and wet, like grass and morning fog. Alive. Real. I move toward it without hesitation. Outside, the cold hits different. Cleaner. The hills stretch wide and empty again. Birds are calling somewhere far off. The world feels normal, almost gentle. I breathe deeply, filling my lungs until they ache. For a moment, I just stand there, letting the daylight wash the night out of my head. My shoulders loosen for the first time since sunset. Before leaving, I glance back at the mansion one last time. The windows reflect the pale sky, except one. The upper bedroom window. There's a shape standing behind the glass. Still, human. The same height as me. Watching. I can't see a face, only a dark outline. I hold its gaze for a second too long, then tighten my straps and start walking away. I don't look back again. Some houses aren't abandoned. Some are just waiting for the next builder to stay the night. I keep walking until the mansion disappears behind the folds of the hills. The grass brushes softly against my legs, leaving thin trails of moisture on the fabric. Each step feels lighter than the last, but my chest stays tight, like something is still following me from a distance. The morning air smells clean. Wet stone, cold wind, open land. Alive. Nothing like the air inside that place. My pack creaks gently with every movement. Tools knocking together in a quiet, familiar rhythm. Usually that sound comforts me. It reminds me of work waiting to be done, of structures that need hands like mine. But today it feels different, heavier, like I'm carrying more than wood and metal, like I'm carrying the memory of something that shouldn't exist. I replay the night in my head as I walk, the footsteps, the dragging above the ceiling, the nails removed cleanly, the hammering downstairs, every sound too precise to be random, too careful to be decay. Old buildings collapse, they don't repair themselves, they don't organize tools, they don't work in the dark. And yet, that rhythm, tap, 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 it was mine, exactly mine. The same spacing I use without thinking, the same controlled strength, like someone had studied me, learned me, practiced my movements until they were perfect. The thought sends a slow chill through my arms despite the daylight. I wonder how many others came before me. Other builders, other stubborn men thinking they could fix the place, tame it, make it livable. I imagine them boarding windows, reinforcing doors, lighting small fires for warmth. I imagine each one hearing those same sounds at midnight, feeling that same second set of steps behind them. Maybe they all left like I did, quietly, before sunrise, packing fast, pretending nothing happened. Or maybe some of them stayed longer than they should have. Maybe some decided to follow the hammering downstairs. I try not to picture what they might have found, or what might have found them first. At the edge of the field, I stop and take off my gloves. My hands are pale and slightly numb. There's dust still caught in the lines of my skin. Old grey dust from inside the mansion. I rub my fingers together, feeling the fine grit fall away. It smells faintly of stone and rot. Even out here, a piece of that house clings to me. For a moment, I consider going back someday, with more tools, better light, more preparation. That's how I solve problems. I return and finish what I started. But this time the thought doesn't feel brave. It feels foolish. Not everything broken wants to be repaired. Some places don't need a builder. They need witnesses. The sun finally breaks over the hills, thin gold light stretching across the grass. The warmth touches my face, gentle and real. Birds move overhead. Life continues like nothing strange ever happened. From this distance, the mansion could almost be beautiful. Just another ruin in the landscape. Quiet, harmless, pretending. I pull my straps tighter and keep walking without looking back again. My voice comes out low, almost a whisper to myself. Some houses aren't abandoned. They're occupied. The words hang in the cold air for a second before fading. And deep down, with a certainty I can't explain, I know the truth. That mansion doesn't hunt people. It waits for builders. And every night, something inside keeps working.